So today we're talking about our second type of factoring our trinomials into two binomials. And notice that now in front of x there's an a. And so when we talk about quadratics, which is what this is since it's degree 2, normally a goes in front of x squared, b goes in front of x, and c is my constant. And so a here is not necessarily 1 like it was in yesterday's assignment. And so because of that, we can see how this changes how I factor. So let's look at an example. So let's go FOIL and see what happened when I distributed this one out. So I already typed it up for us to make this go a little faster. So when I FOILed, I had my first two terms multiplied together when I distributed the 2x times 5x, which gives me 10x squared. And then 2x times 4 is 8x. And then when I switch it up and do my 3 times 5x, which gives me 15x, and then 3 times 4, which gives me 12. So when I then go and combine those middle terms, I get 23x in the middle, and then my 10x squared and my 12x stay. So my goal is to get from down here with my original, with my trinomial, and get it back up to those two binomials. That's still my goal, and we can still use boxes to do that. So the first thing you have to do when you have your boxes, you need to look at all three of your terms. And so I need to look at 6, 23, and 7. Do they share any factors? In this case, they don't, and that's what we needed to happen. Because otherwise, we'll end up with too many of the same number, and that'll cause some problems for us. So because they don't, we're going to do exactly what we did yesterday. So I'm going to write 6n squared up here, then I would have 7 down there, and then we'll go off to the side and multiply them together. So 6 times 7 is 42, and I'd have my n squared. So in this case, my last term was positive. So we're going to list off all of the factors in which combine together to give me the ones I needed. So in this case, 42 would give me 1n and 42n. And then I could have 2n and 21n. And then I can have 3n, and 3 goes into 4 once, and then it'll go into 12 3 times. So 3n and 13n. And then 4 does not go into 42, neither does 5, but 6 does, and 7 does as well. So now I've wrapped up all my factors. Well, I want to know, because I have a positive one, I'm going to add them all together. And I want to know which ones add to 23, because that's my middle term. So, well, 2n and 21n add to 23. No, not 23, 21n. So now I'm going to go find my GCFs, just like we did yesterday. So for my first row, 6n squared and 21n, well, this time I share a 3 goes into both 6 and 21, and they also both have n's. In my second row, with my 2n and my 7, in this case, I don't have a number that they share or a variable n, so they're just 1. And because that's a positive 23, I'll have a plus. So now I want to go and look at my columns. And so to look at my columns, in that first column, I have 6n squared and 2n, which actually gives me a 2n. And then I have 21n and 7, which shares 7, and because we already talked about how both of my signs were positive. So my final polynomial is going to be 2n plus 7 and 3n plus 1. And so that is going to be my answer. So you can refoil it and see that it works. An easy way to check this is my preference on how to check, but it might not be yours. And so my preference is I just check my my inner and my outer terms, because those are the ones that are like that combine. So 7 times 3 is 21n, and then 2 times 1 is 2n, and I added those together to get 23n. So my middle terms combined to check off the 23 I needed, and so we're going to count that as a win. So that was when C was positive. So go ahead, press pause and try this one on your own. Notice when you start this one that 2, 5, and 2 don't all share the same factor. So because of that, it's going to work the same way. So go ahead, I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to show the answer in a moment. So go ahead, pause and try it on your own. So here's the answer. So with that, why are my signs negative? My 2 was positive, so how in the world did I get a negative number? Well, don't forget from yesterday that if that middle term is negative and the last one is positive, the positive at the end says they're both the same, but that middle term dictates what sign I need to have. And so if I want to check this one, I have negative 4y here, and then I have a negative 5y. So not negative 5y, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself, negative y. So when I combine that together, I get negative 5y, which is what I wanted as that middle term. I did want it to be negative, not positive. So, same thing's going to happen now if we start and my last term is negative though, so we still do it the same way we did yesterday. But notice, once again, the 7, the 26, and the 8, they don't share any factors. If they did, we'd have to take an extra step, which is something you'll see today. So I can write my 7x squared, and I can write my 8. Because it's negative, you're welcome to write the negative in there to help you get the correct signs. So now what we're going to do is 7 times 8 is 56. So I have negative 56x squared. So when I go to break these up, I can have 1 and 56, but one of those needs to be negative, so negative 1 or positive 1 and negative 56. And so 2 goes into 56 how many times? So 2 goes into 5 twice, but I had 1 left over. And so with that 1 left over, we end up getting 28. But remember, one of those needs to be positive, and one of those need to be negative. So 3 does not go into 56, but 4 does. So 4 goes into 5 once, and then I'm left with 16, so I have 14. But remember, I need to write it twice, and one of those need to be positive, and one of those need to be negative. So 5 doesn't go into 56, and neither does 6. 7 goes into 56, because 7 times 8 got me 56. So make sure to make one of them negative and one of them positive. Okay, so you can write x's with all of those. I accidentally dropped them off. So I'm going to go back and add them all in. So some numbers do have some really high values, so we do want to be careful that we're getting all of them. Okay, so now, because I've already taken care of all the signs, I'm going to add them and find out which to add to 26. So the ones that add to a 26 mean I'm going to be using one of these two, but which one do I want to have the right sign? I want it to be a negative 26, so I specifically want to use that first one to get that negative 26 since the negative was with 28. So that would be 2x and a negative 28x. So with that, we'll go through and do our GCFs again. So my first row has an x. My second row has a negative 4. So my first column has a 7x, and my second column has a 2. So in this case, my answer would be 7x plus 2, because that 2 was positive, and x minus 4. So, just so we don't forget, when we have a negative at the back, that means my signs are going to be different. And then we just have to be careful as to which one ends up being negative. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to skip the next example actually. So give me 1 second, and then we'll start with another problem. Okay, so the first thing we've done on all these previous problems is I have double checked do I have any common factors. So now I have 20, 80, and 35. Do 20, 80, and 35 share any common factors? Why, yes, they do. They all share a 5. And so we do want to reduce these, because otherwise we will end up with the wrong answer. So I'm going to factor out a monomial of 5. And then I will only use the numbers in black that are left over in my boxes. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. So I have 4x squared. Plus, how many times does 5 go into 80? Well, go through and divide, and you get that it's 16, and I have x. And then I have a plus. 35 divided by my 5 is a 7. Now, one thing you'll notice immediately, these numbers are much smaller and a lot easier to work with. That is one of many reasons that we want to factor it out. Another, if you didn't factor it out, I would have ended up getting a factor in 5 for all my GCFs, so I would have been multiplying by 25 and not just 5. So, at the end, I'm going to write my answer right here when I factor it out. So, my factors in black are going to come strictly from that black trinomial. I will not reuse that 5. So, I will use 4x squared and then 7. And then everything else is the exact same that we did before. So, 7 times 4 is 28x squared. So going to write down my factors, I would have my 7 is positive, so I do want them to have the same sign. So I have 1 and 28, 2 and 14. Well, I can keep going with my factors, but I've already found the one that works. So especially for ones that have a ton of factors, the faster you can find the ones that are correct, the easier this makes us. And so I did forget to write my x's with them. But so I will fill in a 2x and a 14x. So now I am all clear to go in and find my GCFs. So that first row has a 2 and an x. My bottom row doesn't share anything other than a 1. We already talked about how it needs to be positive because my last sign is positive and my 16 is a plus. So my first column gives me a 2x. My second column gives me a 7, which needs to be a positive because my last term is positive and my middle term is positive. So the last term is always going to tell me, are they the same or different? Positive means same, minus means different. And the middle term is going to give me more information about my inside terms. So this gives me a 2x plus 7 and a 2x plus 1. So my final answer for this one includes that 5 and my 2 binomials. So we just need to be careful to factor out that monomial, that number that's way too big, otherwise we'll get the wrong answer. So let's go do one more, and then we'll be done for today, other than your homework. So try this one on your own right quick and see if you can get it. I will write the answer up on the board, so hit pause, work it out, and then hit play again. So, finishing up my check, this is the answer that I get for my polynomial when I factored it. And I factored out a 6 first because it did share a common term, a common factor. I factored it out, then I factored my 3k squared minus 2k minus 1, just like we've been doing since yesterday. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help or to Zoom. I know I focused a lot more using boxes today, and I did yesterday as well, and that is because it is the method most often used in our Algebra 2 courses at GCA, and so it does help a good bit. So if you're having questions or concerns, shoot me an email. We can set up a Zoom chat. I can help it make more sense. I hope y'all are having a good day. Bye.